And now just for a moment, just come back to a breath that is just your breath, whatever it's doing at this moment. And just being with that breath and that movement. And then with that same care and attention, find your way to standing. And I'll take you through a little bit of standing work that we've been exploring. And it relates to some Qigong and the work that I've been doing with my friend Tim, who's a Qigong master. So we're just going to explore a little bit of standing together, and then we're going to go through a couple of Qigong movements. And for me, they've been really integral and important for me. They kind of set the tone for my class. So there's a stance, it's called the Wuji stance. So your feet are parallel. They're about fist width apart. So if you come to feeling the sensations of your feet on the floor, the heels, maybe the outsides of your feet, the balls of your feet. And just for a moment, very, very gently, and the movement doesn't have to be much, and you've probably explored this many times before, just allowing yourself to go forwards a little bit. A micro movement's really good enough, and just feeling how your fascia and your body responds to a slight forward lean. And then allow yourself to go through your kind of center point to a back lean. And just allow yourself to oscillate just back and forwards. And while you're doing this, feeling how your skeleton here is supporting you, and are you able to let go of some maybe unnecessary musculature keeping us upright. And your arms in the Qigong stances with your palms facing your thighs, your fingers towards the floor. There's a bit of space between your body and your arms. And then come to a place now that for you feels neither forward nor back. So that for you feels your kind of center place. And feel that sensation of your feet on the floor as you yield into the floor, that support that's given to you. Ankles. Feel the bottom of feel the bones in your lower legs, how they're supporting you in your uprightness. Soft knees. Your thighs, relaxing as much as possible. Musculature around your thighs and your buttocks, and feeling the support of your femur keeping you upright. Lower back soft. Shoulders relaxed, just hanging. And your jaw slightly open, and maybe your chin very, very gently tucked into your chest. It gets you maybe a bit more internal. These are all suggestions, don't forget. And now a little bit of oscillation left to right. And so as you go to one side, you can feel that line of energy from maybe the outside of your leg all the way to your hip. And just allowing yourself to gently oscillate from one side to the other. And as you're doing this, you maybe become in contact more with your default muscular patterns. And can you soften those? Are you a person that holds on more in their buttocks and lower back? You hold in tight knees, shoulders, jaw relaxed, brain soft, relaxed. And then coming back to a place now that for you feels neither left nor right, nor forward nor back. And think how, or feel how you can move your body in a way that allows you to let go of unnecessary musculature and your old default patterns of holding yourself in space. How well are we able to use our skeleton just to keep us supported here upright? And then from here we go through a couple of Qigong exercises. If you're familiar, please go ahead and start practicing. And if you're unfamiliar, I'll take you through it. So the first one's going to be called Lifting the Sky. And the first thing that I do is my head bends forward, my arms are extended, fingers pointing towards each other, palms pointing to the floor. And then on an in-breath, I'm lifting my arms up and I'm looking through my fingers. On an in-breath, I pause when my arms are upright. I push up in lifting the sky, and I exhale through my mouth, coming down. Simple. Inhale. Exhale. And in Qigong, the exhale is through your mouth, and there's a sound to the exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So looking at synchronizing body, mind, breath. And now as you're doing this, just imagine maybe that your arms are floating up in water. And so there's an easefulness of the movement. So taking the effort away of the movement. And then when you take that effort away, in some ways the form now becomes less important. Inhaling, coming up. Pause. Push, lifting the sky. Exhale, coming down. Don't forget, no right nor wrong. Just the way that you're doing it now. It's perfect in this moment. Inhaling. Kind of feels like iron filings with a magnet. The energy becomes more aligned. My mind, my body, my breath. And then just maybe a couple more times. And then arms by your sides. So just come back for a moment into your standing and feel if that's changed things for you. Is it more comfortable, less comfortable? Has it highlighted some tension? So feeling your feet on the floor, the sensations of feet, your heels, sides of your feet. And this uprighting stance is really like an uprighting. It's not a military, I'm upright. So if you feel yourself having these little movements and changes, this is really part of just standing and just doing these micro adjustments. Feeling your ankles, feeling the support of your legs, knees soft, buttocks soft, lower back, shoulders. Chin, just maybe gently tucked in your chest, particularly if you go around with an extension in your neck. Shoulders relax, brain relax. Quiet mind. In Qigong, they call it a Qigong state of mind, this mind that becomes as quiet as possible. And for me, this has been a really important exploration, particularly these challenging times in the world. How can I keep coming back to feeling grounded and not having these mind activities of trying to sort the world out? And then the next exercise is carrying the moon. It's similar in some ways. I'm going to bend my body forwards with my arms. And then on an inhale, I'm coming up with my arms. My hands are shaped like this. And in this position, I pause with my breath, carrying the moon, and then exhale, coming down. So a similar pattern. Inhale. Pause, exhale. Inhale, pause, exhale. Kind of feel a bit like a bit of a reset sequence. I think a lot of the bone yoga, the way that we explore moving the skeleton, has that quality. And it kind of feels like I need resetting quite a lot these days too. Bending forwards, inhaling, coming up. Pause, exhale. And again, allowing or feeling that you're moving in water, just taking the effort out of the movement so that you also maybe become the movement. Allowing the movement to do you. And again, maybe just a couple more times. And then come back to standing again, feeling what that feels like, taking yourself on a journey through your body, feeling how your skeleton is supporting you now. You're able to let go of some unnecessary musculature. Look at your old default patterns. You're someone that holds more in your buttocks, your lower back, or your shoulders. And then I'm going to pass over to Amy now. So should have my glasses on really. Make sure that I need to.
I'm able to do it.
Oh yeah.
Did it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So from where you're standing, see how you experience the weight of your skull. How do you sense weight? And at the bottom of your skull, if you don't know, there's two kind of rounded surfaces that are condyles, like the rockers on a rocking chair. So take your skull and tip it the teeniest bit forward and back, not even to move your neck, just to tip your skull a little bit forward and a little bit back, with the idea that a little tiny bit of movement might help you sense where there's weight. So you're doing the movement to increase the sensory input. So you can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. But as you tip your skull forward and back, where do you notice weight? What is the sensation of weight of your skull into your bones? And can you look for a sense of how the weight of your skull is pouring into your spine? Notice if the weight of your skull is pouring down the back of your spine or the front of your spine. And what we're looking for is a sense of the front of the spine. So can you use this play with your skull to be curious about where the front of your spine is? Now, the back of the spine, the bumps down the back, the spinous processes, those are often more available because we can touch them in the back. The front of your spine is nestled in there with your organs. It's got the discs and the bodies as a vertebra. Now, from this nodding, can you nod a little further forward? And this is going to eventually become rolling down through your spine. So you can make this as small or as big a movement as you like. But can your skull pouring forward pour weight into the front of your vertebra? And then can you continue to roll down through your spine with the idea that you're visiting each vertebra, and bend your knees as much as you want to. And then when you get to what feels like the bottom, how do you bring yourself back up from a sense of your bones looking for their relationship with each other, your skull coming back to the top of the front of your spine? So you're seeing how articulate you can be through your spine. What are the places that feel held? Like, where are there holding spots? And then also, where are there gaps in your awareness of your spine? Yeah, so as you go down and as you come back up, what kind of sensations are you looking for? And I'd like you to notice, particularly if you're looking for the sensation of stretch. And if you're looking for the sensation of stretch, what happens if you don't look for that? You can look for it later, but right now, what happens if you don't look for the stretch? Can you look for something else? Can you be curious about a different sensation, which is weight traveling through the bones of your spine? Now, you may not know what that sensation is. There's not a right question here. It's just, if we take one sensation off the table, what else might arise? So as you continue in this, rolling down and rolling up, as you come forward, as you come down, you might see if you can come down all the way into whatever your forward bend is. Yeah, so the idea of this is to be articulating through your spine, but you all know your spines better than I do. So distribute the articulation as much as you can, but don't force anything. But when you come into what feels like your forward bend, can you see how your weight is now in the bones of your legs? So I'm going to invite you to spend a little bit of time in your forward bend. If you know it's too long to be in a forward bend for a minute or two, come part way up. Or rest your hands on the table, rest your hands on your knees, or bend your knees more. Yeah. So the question is, how do you feel the weight in your legs now? With your spine rolled forward, you could feel things pouring towards your head. But what do you need to do to feel the weight of your body pouring down through your legs into your feet? And in this is a question also of do as little as possible, but as much as you need to. Yeah? So this is not a completely relaxed place to be. Right? It takes some activity. Do as little as possible, but as much as you need to. And then see if you can find, from that sense of weight going down, an activity in your feet that is using the floor to push yourself back up to vertical. So as you're ready to, you're going to roll back up to standing, this time focusing on coming up from your feet. So now as you're ready to, you can roll down again and up in your own time. And in the rolling down, can you attend to the experience of your weight flowing down into your feet? And then from the bottom, when you're on your way back up, what do you do in your feet, in your bones, in your muscles, in your fascia, in your cells? What do you do to engage with the floor and travel up because of how your feet meet the floor? So you're not coming up because you're trying to get up to the ceiling. It's not about reaching up, but can you feel the pathway within yourself from your feet to your head to bring you up to vertical. So we're kind of looking for a pathway now from the head through the spine, into the legs, into the feet, and then from the feet through the spine up to the head. And then the next time you come forward, see if you can bend your knees, bring your hands to the floor, and kind of walk your hands out so that you come out to your hands and knees. Yeah, and you can adjust where you are on your mat if you need to. But find your way out to your hands and knees, and see now, as you come to your hands and knees, you can sit back a little bit over your heels towards child's pose. Or you can have your weight forward a little more over your hands. But how do your hands meet the floor? Yeah, so how do your hands meet the floor? And the same kind of push you found from your feet into your body, we're going to look for how the weight of your body flows down through your arms into your hands. And then how you can use your hands to kind of push yourself back into your spine, and you're going to try to push back towards your tail. So the basic movement when we get there is going to be to slide back towards child's pose. Yeah, but to start with, can you spend a little bit of time kind of weight sensing? How does the weight of your body get through your arms into your hands? And again, do as little as possible, but you have to do something here or you'd collapse on your face. So how do you find where the front of your spine is? And how does the front of your spine connect to your ribs? How do your ribs connect to your collarbones? Collarbones to your scapula? Scapula to your upper arm bones, and then your lower arm bones, and then your hands. And then can you imagine that the push of your hands is going to travel back through your lower arms, through your upper arms, through your scapula, through your collarbone, to your ribs, to the front of your spine, to push you back towards your heels. And then you find the push of your legs to push you back forward to your hands and knees. So you're just sliding forward and back from something like child's pose. It doesn't matter to me how far back you go. Yeah, but sliding back and then sliding forward. Yeah. So can you find the push of your hands to your tail that takes you back? And the push of your feet to your head that brings you forward. Now, this is, in its way, it can be a very specific task that you're not reaching. So you're not using your head to bring you forward, to go out into space. It's very much about building up the internal pathways so that hands to tail and feet to head, these two pathways, they pass each other through your spine, but they're also kind of building this internal tone. But if you feel like your effort is ramping up, like it's getting hard, you're working harder and harder, the idea I'm proposing is that as you find the pathway, can you use less effort? Use as much as you need to. That as the pathway becomes clearer, you might not need so much effort. So can it get easier? And the answer might be no. Of course, the answer might be that no, of course it can't be easier. This is hard. But there's also a difference between the difficulty of attending to something unfamiliar. Like it might be hard to keep track of something you haven't tracked before. But that's different than the idea that you have to work harder and harder. to continually to keep doing a movement. If you would like to, last thing I'm going to propose, if you would like to, from the push of your hands to your tail, you could find also the push of your feet to your head. Like you could try to do both pushes at once, and it might lift your knees up off the floor. And it might, you can play with like the push of your hands to your tail being a little stronger, and it might take you back towards downward dog. Or the push of your feet to your head might bring you forward towards plank. Depends a little bit on your position of your hands and feet where this takes you. But can you play with, however much you like, the push of your hands to your tail, meeting the push of your feet to your head. So it's from your hands and your feet, using the support of the floor to find the pathway into your body. If you'd like to find a place to be for a few minutes, for a few breaths, you could be in downward dog and breathe. You could be on your hands and knees. And then when you feel finished, find your way to something like child's pose and pause. And then Paul, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you. So let's come to kneeling just for a little while. I'll do a little bit of exploration around the movement of the spine and how we engage the spine. And what's the time? Cool. So if kneeling is a little bit uncomfortable for you, you can certainly sit cross-legged, or I find kneeling easier doing this, or you can sit in a chair or sit on a bolster. Let me just give you a little bit of orientation around the skeleton and the things that we're going to look at exploring. So I've got Rangi here, my roommate. So just going to look at the spine and that exploration of the spine that we've just been doing with Amy. If you look at how deep the bulky part, the weight-bearing part of your spine is, how deep that is within the body, it's incredible. And if you look at the lumbar spine, and this will just be really brief, the facets of the joints are vertical in their orientation, which means that forward bending for me or for us is available. There's a little bit of side bending, or quite a bit, but rotation is only about 5%, because the facets of the joint, as you rotate lumbarly, they will engage quite quickly. And coming further up the spine, the thoracic spine, the facets are oblique, which means that I can then rotate. So you've got the vertical orientation of the facets of the lumbar and oblique. So the rotation exploration is going to be different from both of those. And another thing that we'll just do a tiny bit of exploration of as well is looking at the anterior longitudinal ligament, which starts deep down in the coccyx, it comes up the front of the spine, and it goes all the way to the top of the spine, which is up here. And that longitudinal ligament, if we were to cut that ligament, because of the way that the spine is designed, it would just concertina up. So there's an innate energy that's within the spine that if we were to cut that ligament, it would concertina up. And conversely, with the back of the spine, if we were to cut the posterior longitudinal ligament, your spine, the back would collapse. So we're just going to explore the movement of the spine rotationally and look at exploring that innate energy that's there within our spine. That's my quick lesson, or orientation, or whatever. So, coming to kneel, well, we're kneeling already. So, I'm just going to take a moment just to settle down in my kneeling. My hands on my thighs. And then with your torso and your head facing forwards, just place one hand behind your back, but gently so that I'm not going to rotate my shoulder. This is just giving me some slight orientation of direction. And gently also your other hand on your opposite knee. And then if you look at, so if my right hand's behind my back, I'm going to rotate to my right. But my inquiry around this is, can I just rotate now and engage my lumbar? So if I keep my torso and head facing forward, I'm just going to move my lumbar. And can you feel that engage? I'm sure you all can. So I'm engaging just my lumbar. So there's a certain looseness in the movement until the fascia starts to engage. And then we feel a tightness. And just gently go into that tightness, not too deep into the sensation at this minute. And then return. So coming from looseness to engagement. And then just allow that movement as we rotate the thoracic spine. And can you then feel that engagement of your lumbar? Thoracic lumbar junction is here. And then rotating incrementally as much as possible my lower thoracic, mid-thoracic, upper thoracic, and then my neck, and then return. So really just taking yourself on a journey with your spine through the movements that your spine is designed to do, pre-big locomotion muscle engagement. So avoiding that kind of deep, stretchy feeling, but just looking at how smooth I can engage my lumbar, my thoracic, mid-thoracic, upper thoracic, neck, and then gently return. And then swapping hands over, so the other hand goes behind your back, the other one on the opposite leg, still with your torso and head facing forwards. And then first off, just engaging through some rotational movement. Your lumbar spine, you might feel it different here than the other side. There are areas that are engaging quicker. Do you have to engage a bit more to feel that? And then from that engagement of your lumbar, start to then rotate my lower, I rotate my lower thoracic, mid-thoracic spine, upper neck, and then recoil in that reverse order. So just exploring how well your spine is moving, introducing maybe some smooth clarity movement to it. This has become one of the most influential parts to my whole movement and yoga practice. It's really supported the integrity of my spine, which has been challenged since I was a teenager, really, and really not challenged much now. And then just come back for a moment, your hands on your thighs, and just take this little settle for a minute. I like pauses, or they could also be called poises, because you're poised ready for the next one. This is a pause. And again, have your hand behind your back, the other one on the opposite knee, torso or thigh, torso, head facing forwards. And we have a choice of how to engage before we just engage. So maybe now think about really engaging and working from your musculature so that you're allowing your muscles more to move. And that kind of familiarity that we have with our muscles moving and engaging. And how is that different from your first exploration? Maybe it's the same. Maybe you were already very muscle orientated. So maybe for you there's a fuller sensation, more familiar. Swapping hands over, doing the other side. Spines, we're bilateral. Every one side's going to be very different to the other side, just because of the way the spine is designed, shaped, internal organs, different places, movement. This way will be different. Muscular, so we have a choice. And then come back momentarily to hands on your thighs. So just a couple more explorations with this rotation. Again, hands on the opposite side, again, one behind the back, one on your thigh. And maybe this time think about if this works for you. When you do your engagement, think about how you're engaging a tension in your life or something that you've come up against that is maybe challenging you as you're moving. And how do you engage your spine and the movement to have a relationship with something that is challenging? Maybe you think about something particular, or just that notion of how, when you're challenged, how you engage that with your body, and then swapping sides over again. And then coming back to your hands on your thighs. So, just a really quick story. When I was, it was about 3 weeks into lockdown, and I was feeling quite frustrated, and I was kind of giving myself a mentally hard time. And I then was sitting down on my own, and I thought to myself, well, I'm having a really hard time. How can I have my relationship with that? And I said, well, your hard time that you're having, can you have that same kind of relationship with it and care that you have with your yoga? So then I started to look at these challenges going on in my head with a certain degree of kindness, and it started to change. So the last exploration for us of this rotational movement, hand behind your back, other one on the thigh. Now, if you start to engage rotational movement with kindness, does that change the way that you're moving? And what's kindness for you? Maybe kindness is being really soft and gentle. Maybe for you, kindness might be engaging more. And then doing the other side again, just thinking about being kind to yourself. I think it's such an important thing to keep exploring, because we do have a tendency of putting ourselves down too much, judging ourselves. And then coming back to hands on your thighs. And just a couple of minutes exploration of looking at, it's kind of cat-cow while we're sitting, flexion and extension. So as I extend, I'm going to be breathing in. I like to work with the breath. And then as I breathe out, I fold forwards. And then if you look at this movement, breathing in and breathing out, maybe have a sense that you're breathing in and it starts deep down in your coccyx at the front of your spine, the bulky part of the spine, and breathing in, using that innate energy that's within the spine. I pause, and then I focus on the back of my spine as I soften front of spine. It's kind of this relationship of sthira and sukha, which is in the spine. Front part is more sthira and the back part more sukha. Maybe inhale. Exhale. And then just coming back to hands on your thighs. And I'm going to pass over now to Amy. Spend as long as you like, Amy. And I can just do Shavasana at the end or something, because...
Okay. Okay. From this question of twisting from the bottom to the top, can you come back to your skull now? And the balance of the front and back of the spine, the balance of steadiness and ease. And can you explore the movements that you might do through your spine here, starting with your head? So I'll invite you to start with twisting. Since we were just twisting, if you'd start from your head and you turn to one side, do you have the same experience of your spine? Do you have a different experience of your spine? And then can you come back from your head? So when you return, how is it if you turn your head to bring yourself back? And then your cervical spine, and then your thoracic, and then your lumbar. And then your head might take you right over to the other side. So can you take what you found with Paul and bring it into this inquiry about how the weight of your head travels through the front of your spine? And then I'm going to invite you to, in your twist, as much as you want to, see if you can bring in that rolling down through your spine. Can you roll through your spine in such a way that maybe you bring your hands to the floor? And some of you are kneeling and some of you are cross-legged. So it can look a lot of different ways. But the idea is just to find a way, starting from your head, adding to the twist. Can you find a way to maybe roll down and bring your hands to the floor and find a little push through your hands? So, and if you have to shift your weight off of your feet, you can. But how do you twist and then roll and find your hands on the floor? And can you find your hands and the pathway from your hands to your tail? And then from wherever you've ended up, you might take a few breaths. And if it's a really unusual or unfamiliar place, all the better. And can you find from your base then, where your forelegs or your sit bones or your feet meet the floor, can you find that foundation to then bring you back up to vertical? So can you play with a little rotation and flexion through your spine to bring your hands to the floor? Find the push of your hands to your tail. And then find the push of your lower body, whether it's your feet or your sit bones or your legs. And you find the push of your lower body through your bones that come back to your head. So as you continue, you might see if you push through your hands to your tail, it might actually shift your weight off of your legs. So you might come into like more weight bearing on your hands. You might end up kind of shifting your weight off to one side. And then how do you find your legs? Push through your legs, your sit bones to your spine to bring yourself back to the center. And then whatever you did on one side, can you kind of see if you can do the same thing on the other side? Because as Paul said, we have like really different patterns on each side, and they won't be exactly the same. But so this is very, this is meant to be very free form, about shifting your weight from your lower body into your upper body, and then from your upper body back into your lower body. In this kind of conversation through your spine, from your hands to your tail. and your feet to your head. So sometimes our movement, particularly on the yoga mat, can get really sagittal, can get really forward and back. I don't know what your patterns are, so I'm not speaking necessarily to what you do, but if you always go forward and back, how is it to shift your weight off to the side and then find your way back to the center? And shift your weight off to the other side and find your way back to the center. And then is it possible to do this in such a way, and it depends a little bit on how much space you have behind yourself, but to actually turn and shift your weight behind you so that you're going to come out towards coming all the way onto your front. Yeah, so you're going to come out towards lying down on your front because you brought your hands into you. So you're going to roll, tumble over your legs, adjust your knees, your legs, however you want to, so that you can kind of come out onto your front. And then how do you push from your hands, gather your legs in, pull your legs in, and bring yourself back up to vertical. And then can you do a similar thing to the other side? So if you're not sure what I mean by that, I'm going to do it here. Which is to say from here that if I come around, can I like pour over onto my front? And then I have to push from my hands and gather my legs in and find my way back up to sitting. I don't. And then you adjust your space to do it on the other side. So in this turning and coming down, can I bring my weight into my hands so that I have my weight in my hands coming down, and then I find that push of my hands to my tail and the gathering in of my legs to bring me back up. Yeah, and it doesn't have to come out straight behind you at all, but just how do you find your way to your front to make the floor? And then how do you gather yourself back in from the push of your hands, from the push of your legs, to come back up to vertical? Yeah, and maybe you don't come out behind yourself. Maybe you come out to the side. Like if you're in a big enough space that you want to come. How do you do that? But can this be some kind of conversation between your hands and your feet? Finding their way into your spine. And the next time you've come out onto your front, then stay on your front. And see how it is from there on your front to feel the floor meeting the front of your body. Yeah, so lying face down, lying prone. Where your hands meet the floor, can you find a little push of your hands, and can you find your way down to your tail? Is it possible to feel the front of your spine here? And then can you find a little push from your feet? Can you tuck your toes under? Find a little push from your feet towards your head, through the front of your spine. Just as much as you need to, as little as possible, but as much as you need to. Just seeing where the push of your hands and your feet go in your body. And can you find some kind of pathway to the front of your spine? And then is it possible from here to find the push of your right hand to lift your right leg up? So can you, wherever your hand meets the floor, can you kind of find, can you find your hand pushing into the floor, travel through your spine to lift your right leg up? Yeah. And then can you find the push of your left hand to lift your left leg up? So like, what's the pathway through your body from your hand to your foot via the front of your spine? And this is the pathway is through your bones, but you're certainly using your muscles. Maybe a familiar pathway, maybe an unfamiliar pathway. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, can you play with finding a push from your feet? A push from your right foot to lift your right hand up. So this is not, it's not that you're generating all of the force for this movement from your foot. Your foot by itself can't lift your arm up. But can your foot be the beginning of a pathway through your body that lifts your arm up? Right foot to right hand and left foot to left hand. And this is one of those questions that to me is about practice, that when I ask this question, then it becomes about like, where are the clear parts of the pathway from foot to hand, and where's there a gap? Where's there a blockage? Where am I overworking? Where am I underworking? Sometimes I'm not doing enough to help the pathway come through. Sometimes I'm doing so much that the pathway is obscured. So then see if you can find a way to push from either your hand or your foot to roll yourself onto your back. So you might push from your right hand to lift your right foot up and roll yourself over onto your back. Yeah. And then we're going to do the same kind of question on your back. Yeah. So can you, and you can bend your knees to do this. On your back, it's a little bit of a interesting question, but if you're on your back and you bring your arms up overhead, so you're in kind of a X shape and your knees can be bent or straight, but can you play with like pushing your right foot into the floor? And that could be straight legged or bent. And can you find your way from your right foot to your right hand? And can you use the push of your right foot to lift your right arm up a little bit? And then can you try pushing with the other foot? So I'm running through them quickly. Well, what feels like quickly to me. But the idea is to find your way from right foot to right hand, left foot to left hand. And then how do you push from your hand to find your foot? And you can push the back of your hand into the floor. The other thing you can do, depending on how your shoulders are working for you today, is you can put your hand like in a wheel position. Yeah, so you could flip your arm over so your elbow's up to the ceiling, and you can see how it is to push from that hand and try to get to your feet. Yeah, so your fingers will point back towards your own shoulder as if you were going to push up into a wheel. Yeah. And how do you push from that hand to the same side foot? So right hand to right foot. Is it possible? Left hand to left foot. Is it possible? So, and kind of the question in this case, this looks like, it's very similar to some other exercises. Notice if you're doing this, if you're pushing your ribs up off the floor, I don't mean for you to push your ribs up off the floor, but to push through your body so that your leg lifts up. So how do you find the pathway through for your limb to lift up, which is different than finding the pathway to roll your torso, but they're related. And those of you that are ending up rolling, that is where we're headed. So once you have pushed from each limb and let that kind of lift the other limb, or at least once you ask that question once, we're going to bring in a different idea for the last thing I'm going to propose. So from a body, mind centering perspective, this pushing that I've been proposing doing, where you make these pathways into your body, or you make pathways between different parts of your body, they underlie then our ability to reach. And the idea is that having those pathways in your body then lets you reach out into space and stay connected to yourself. In theory, that's the idea. So from where you are on your back, can you take your right hand and now reach it across yourself in space? And the idea is that it's going to roll you over onto your front. But knowing that you're going to roll, can you reach in such a way that you feel like that reach calls up those pathways that you were just working on? And can you reach your right hand across in front of you so that it rolls you over onto your front? And if you don't have room to quite roll, you can do what you can. Nudge your dog out of place. Adjust the furniture. And then once you've come onto your front, see if you can find your right foot. And can you reach from your right foot back behind you to bring yourself right back where you came from? So you rolled over and you rolled back. But we're going to look for this quality of the reaching now. As you roll yourself through space, can you have this sense, and once you come onto your back, reach with your left hand. When you reach your other hand across in front of you, can that reach call up all those connections you found inside of yourself so that the reaching across brings you with it as you reach into space to roll over onto your front? And then when you're on your front, can you find the feeling of reaching through your leg, calling up all those connections inside your body that you might have found? And can you reach through your left leg to bring yourself back? Yeah. Now there's another piece of this. So same idea, but we're going to change the limbs. The same idea, but I'm going to say something about reaching here that I didn't say before, which is that when you reach with that limb, you have all the push. You have permission. You have a kind of birthright to all the push you found. So if you need some push from your hand to reach from your leg, push as much as you need to. But the task now is to reach your right leg across in front of you. So can you reach with your right leg across in front of you and push from your arm as much as you need to? But the idea is that leg reaching into space is going to come across. It's going to call up all those connections you made, and it's going to roll you over onto your front. And then from your front, can you find the push of your right foot and the reach of your right arm to bring you back? Can you reach your right arm back behind you, out overhead and back to bring you back? Yep. And then take your left foot is going to reach across in front of you. So find whatever push you need from your other connections to take your left foot across in front of you, reach it out into space, but connecting into you to bring you onto your front. And then find the reach of your left arm to bring you back. Just going to go high and back and bring you back. So what I'd like to do is talk you through that sequence again. If you found that frustrating and challenging and uninteresting, you can just start your Shavasana now. If you'd like to do it again, find where you want to be in your room, in your space. Now you know what's coming. And you're going to start with your right arm, and your right arm is going to reach across in front of you. And it's going to call up all the connections you had so that you can go out into space and stay connected to yourself as you roll yourself onto your front. Mm-hmm. And then when you've come onto your front, find your right foot. And can your right foot reach out into space? Call up all those connections you made inside of yourself. Your right foot comes back across behind you to bring you over onto your back. Mm-hmm. And then your left arm is going to come across in front of you, reaching into space. Connect to the room around you, but can you also be connected to yourself? As you roll yourself over onto your front, and then your left leg reaches across behind you. Can you somehow reach into space with your foot, but also be connected to yourself? Mm-hmm. And then when you've come onto your back, you're going to take your right foot across in front of you. So can your right foot reach out, but also be connected into you as you spiral yourself over onto your front. And then your right arm, take all the push you need under this to support you. Can your right arm reach to bring you back onto your back? And then your left leg is going to reach across in front of you. Roll you onto your front. And then your left arm is going to reach back behind you, calling up whatever support you need from inside of you to roll yourself on your back. And then find your Shavasana. I usually suggest that you can be on any surface of your body. See which position feels like you have the most comfort or the most capacity for comfort. See as you settle if there's anything that you're holding that you do not need. As you feel the floor, as you feel your breath, is there anything you're holding that you do not need? If you need it, keep it. I am not saying let go of everything. I'm saying check in and see if there's anything you don't need, can you let it go? And then rest. If you would like to spend a few minutes to end here sitting, you could come up to sitting now. If you'd like to stay lying down for a few more minutes, you could stay lying down for a few more minutes. Whether you're lying down or sitting, what is your experience of gravity? What is your experience of space? If you are still lying down and you want to finish together with us, gather your limbs in and roll to the side. Find your way up to vertical. In your vertical position, see what you feel of the presence of your spine. Where do you notice the movement of your breath? And the balance of effort and ease. And then can you open your senses to the room around you? Maybe your eyes or your skin, your ears. Can you keep your awareness of yourself, but also take in what is around you? Find some balance of inner and outer. And then if you'd like to join me in bringing your arms out and up overhead to bring your palms together, slide your hands down to your heart and bow your head forward and your heart forward. In gratitude to all the teachers and students who've gone before, and the greatest teacher of all, which is that within ourselves. Om Shanti. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Amy. I'll just put